everybody wants to get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
Today's video is a difficult one for me to make. In Graffiti, there's a ton of unbelievably dope hand styles, and BombingScience went ahead and put together a list of the top 40 hand styles in Graffiti. So I wanted to check this list out and see what are my top 10 favorite hand styles on this list. Now, this isn't going to be in any particular order because I'll be honest, these hand styles are way too sick, and I tried to rank them, like, I couldn't do it. So I'm just going to kind of throw this list together of my top 10 favorite ones, and you guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now, this video isn't sponsored or anything. They didn't ask me to do any of this. I just like to share dope graffiti from time to time. So let's head right into it with the first one, Renos, or Renos, I'm not sure. Check out this man's hand styles, dude. They are so crisp and clean. There's something about a writer who has like multiple different tags that clearly are not bitten, which weirdly enough is very rare to find. And like all of them are sick. Each style individually is just dope. Not to mention each style is a clear build off of their own actual style itself. It's not something that you're gonna see many other people do. Now granted, you know, simple tags are simple tags. Sure, they're a dime a dozen, you'll see them a lot. But check out how we have some really stylistic sharp tags on the bottom of this from Renos. You've got the occasional simple tag around which looks equally as clean and as crisp and dope as you'd expect it to be. And it doesn't matter what style they're rocking, quality is held to a high standard. Consistency is held to a high standard. Little side note if I can, because you know we are a kind of informational tutorial channel real quick. This tag right here, this real simple one, most of you guys are capable of doing stuff like that. Most of you beginners and amateurs, but really what separates Renos' clean simple tag from a lot of you guys is the fact that he has refined lines and shapes. Now I have a Discord I've been teaching from, I'll link it in the description, and this is most of their issues over there, is just sloppy lines and shapes. It'll destroy anything you do. Honestly, work on that and you're gonna see your hand styles, throwaways, and pieces jump up tenfold easy. Moving on from that, we got Sicoer. I think that's how that's pronounced. Apologize if I'm butchering that one. They are from Poland after all, and I don't know how to speak any of that language, so that's my bad. But I mean, the hand style speaks for itself. Check that out. Tell me that's not crisp. Tell me that's not stylish and just fire overall, man. What I like about this in particular is how they use negative space and letter positioning. They really like to overlap quite a bit, but they're conscious about that, and they make sure to include some nice, thick, low opacity flares in areas that have deep overlaps. Just enough so like that the lines can be distinguished and things don't get muddled together. That's a really common issue when you have people overlapping, is they don't consider how these lines can easily bleed into one, and it makes the tag almost impossible to read at times. But here, each letter is defined. Any difficulty that comes from reading this is going to be more so from your understanding of style and how much you're able to kind of mentally ignore the extra bits versus the letter structure, which that comes with time, right? Every graffiti artist goes through that, and I dare even say every graffiti artist continues to go through that throughout their entire career as things become more and more technical. But here, each letter is refined and nice and defined, despite how much style is being added to this, which is why it makes it onto this list. Are you ready for someone that isn't going to surprise anybody? Somebody who is like, of course they made it onto the list. Can you blame me? But Skuf has some of the most dope graffiti in the game, period, hands down. I mean, he's a household name as far as graffiti is concerned for a reason, and this is one of those reasons. His hand styles is clean. I love that fat top S that he rocks, and while it really is just a variant structure S, it's the way he uses it within the context of his name that really makes it dope, right? The hard lean to the left with the fat top once again being a predominant weight that kind of causes the lean to the left, and then the rest of the letters that have once again a softer lean but still a lean to the left that help to make everything come together, make everything flow. It's just a beautiful way to rock the tag, to rock the name, and to rock the letter overall that makes me fall in love with his hand style. Next we got Cecster. I don't know how to pronounce any of these names on this list. My goodness, what am I doing? But Cecster has one of the dopest tags on this list as far as I'm concerned. And the reason I feel that way is because of how unique this hand style is. You really don't see tags this original, this kind of, well, sorry to repeat words here, but just unique. That's really the only thing that comes to mind when trying to describe this thing. And what I want to draw your attention to is how he uses the first C to really pop off with a lot of style. Tons of weight and tons of negative space. But then he uses the extension on the leg of the R to help bring some uniformity to that C and tie it into the rest of the hand style. Because as it stands, without the R's extension, the C really wouldn't flow, which doesn't necessarily mean it's bad or wrong. It just means it has a lot of contrast. It's gonna stand out a lot. But with the R having that extension, helping to tie the C in, it really adds a lot to this tag. Which, keep in mind, he's got multiple C's in this name, right? He's got two of them. So check out how he did didn't really make the second C look like the first C. That'd be unreasonable, right? There's too much going on with that first C to repeat it on the second C, and now suddenly, if he had done that, the left side of his name would weigh a ton, and then he wouldn't have enough on the right-hand side of the name to make things flow as needed. Sometimes, experience is knowing when not to add style, or at least not to add too much of it, and that second C is evidence of that. That's a masterclass in flow right there, man. And if you want a masterclass in graffiti in general, then check out the only book that teaches graffiti at a university level, our Ultimate Graffiti Guidebook, which you can find in the description down below. So far, this book has helped thousands of people learn graffiti and find their style, and truly, it's the only book in the market that teaches you each one of graffiti's fundamentals, and it does so with hundreds of pictures that'll hold your hand throughout the entire process. That way, if you're brand new to graffiti, you'll get decades worth of information in one short read-through. And if you're more experienced, you'll find that each lesson goes into incredible amounts of depth and talks about lessons that have never been taught in the graffiti community before. And right now is the perfect time to hop into it, because for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, we've got everything 20% off. So check out the link to the ebook in the description down below at theartistblock.inc, and we do have physical copies over on Amazon. I don't think anyone is going to complain that Twist made it onto this list. The man has one of the most renowned hand styles just because of how clean and crisp it always is. The level of consistency with this guy needs no introduction. Every single tag looks like he could have just taken a big stamp and just smacked it onto the wall, because every single tag he does looks identical to the previous one. It's always perfect, crisp, and clean. And that's going to be a common through line throughout this entire list because, well, these are all really experienced writers here. But what I love about Twist specifically is the fact that he shows simplicity can be beautiful, and you don't need all this crazy stuff going on in your hand styles. Especially for new graffiti artists, he's a great inspiration because a lot of new writers want to mask the things that they don't know by cramming style into every single letter. And you really don't need to. In fact, that oftentimes doesn't do the tag any justice. Now, our next one kind of, it hurt to put on here. I was struggling. I was battling mentally within myself here because, I mean, I'll link the list down below, but they have like 3 different dope Philly hand styles on here, and I couldn't choose between them. I wanted at least one Philly tag just because they were all really sick and I love Philly hand styles, but at the end of the day, Karma took the cake for me. I like his tags the most, which it doesn't feel good to say because the other guys are just as sick. My own personal preferences that makes him come out on top. Sorry, NM and CAD, you got dope stuff, but Karma takes the cake for me. Moving on, we got Poster, and like, what is this guy even doing with his hand styles? He's got tags that are unlike anybody else's. The amount of exterior detail this guy's rocking in his hand styles is seldomly seen in graffiti. And when you get people who try that type of thing, oftentimes looks, well, overcrowded and kind of ridiculous in a lot of instances, he pulls it off beautifully. And I know this list is about hand styles, but let's be real, the guy's an all-rounder, as many of these people on this list are, and he's got some of the most dope throwies in the game as well. Getting back to the tag though, he does something similar to what we saw with Cecster earlier, where Cecster stylized the first letter and then had the last letter help to balance and add flow. Poster does something similar with this tag in particular, where once again, the P is massive, huge, adding a lot of weight, has a lot of style added to it. The other letters throughout the name maintain a more simplistic structure and less style added to each of them. Then the R pops off once again with a lot more style, and the similarities aren't just because it's an R. He could have replaced it with any other letter and I'm sure he would have done exactly the same thing, and what I mean by that is he would have still added a lot of style to help balance the P. And that's just great awareness, man. That's just understanding your name and how you want the name to work and how you want the name to work for you. Really, you get to a point in graffiti where you try to understand your name, you try to understand your name, you try to understand your name, but at the moment you don't yet have the fundamentals to back it. And then as you kind of progress, you begin to get the fundamentals to level up, and you also begin to understand your name on a deeper level. And that's what leads you to things like this. That's what leads you to these much more advanced styles. That's what leads you to bend the name to your will, as opposed to feeling controlled by the name itself. I know a lot of you guys struggle where you feel like, oh, my name can't do this, or I want to do this with my name and I can't get it to work, so on and so forth. We all go through that. As your fundamental knowledge increases and as your knowledge for your name increases, a lot of that kind of gets pushed to the wayside and you're able to once again make the name work for you. This might be one of my favorite hand styles on BombingScience's list, and here's the reason why. It's just an unorthodox tag that doesn't walk the normal path you see in hand styles. They use a lot of graffiti's fundamentals in ways that it's typically not used, and then they make sure to compensate for any lacking fundamentals with other fundamentals, and they do it beautifully. So despite the fact that the letter structures themselves are very simplistic, the exaggerations added to the letter structures and the name overall is where a lot of the style is implemented. As a result, you'll have a really tall Z like this that launches into the ascender space, while the other letters have a much more modest size. The S then goes ahead and breaches right past the baseline into the descender and helps to support the weight underneath the Z. Not to mention the fact, because this is a 5-letter name, the S being as large as it is begins to act as a bit of an anchor for the Z and the R. The second E then acts like the first E and is small, minimal, and doesn't add too much weight. Why? Because he's going to then add a ton of weight to the R to help balance the Z. And what you end up with is a name that not only follows a straight positioning, as each letter does kind of interact with the baseline in some shape, way, form, and fashion, but a name that also kind of slants and tilts downward because of how large the Z is, where the S ends up reaching as far as its bottom, and where the R ends up traveling to as well. Really interesting way to rock this name, and he did it beautifully. 10 out of 10, absolutely love this. From there we move to Shaken, and alright, look, I know I said the last guy might be my favorite one on this list, but this one might be a strong contender, okay? Like I said in the beginning of the video, it was hard to make, these in order because I couldn't choose between them. And here we have a beautiful flare tag with crisp, simple letters that are expertly done. And once again, remember how I mentioned on a previous hand style where despite the overlaps, they used low opacity flares in order to allow the structure to still be clearly seen? We're seeing the same thing again. On the bottom where it says 1, once the E kind of rounds up and around for the exterior detail / extension that circles the whole name, we get a low opacity flare that doesn't interfere with any of the letters that it overlaps. Not the R or the S or the N or the E for that matter, because it does kind of swipe right back through itself. If you tried to do the same exact hand style, the same exact way with a marker, you would risk crossing yourself out. And we see this a lot of times in newer graffiti artists' work where they do an exterior detail that indeed does cross himself out, or they do an extension that does much the same. Not here with Shaken. He's done a beautiful job with this hand style. And then we got the last one on my list here, number 28 on BombingScience's list, and that is Sofles. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right this time. I know before in past videos I've kind of muddled up that word a bit, my bad. But he's just got some of the most dope graffiti in the game, hands down. And this tag is what you'd come to expect from him. Nice, clean, and effective. Once again, I know this is a hand style video, but if you haven't checked out his pieces, which I mean, most of you guys probably have, but in case you're new to graffiti and you haven't checked out his pieces, he's got some of the most unique stuff in the game by far, years ahead of his time. And when it comes back to his hand styles, a lot of that skill, knowledge, and refinement in his work is shown clear as day. So while the hand style may not be as flashy as some of the others that we've seen on this list, he's certainly capable of doing that sort of thing with his tag. And he's demonstrated that plenty of times over on his Instagram. But that brings us to the end of the list. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And don't forget, we have the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale going on right now at the artistblock.inc, so you can get anything 20% off. Be sure to check out our Ultimate Graffiti Guidebook. It is the best how to do graffiti book on the market by far. Also, quick little update. We're hard at work on the tutorial series. We got more of those coming soon, probably the week after Thanksgiving. And we're doing the final pass of our throwy book before we send it to the editor. So if you guys want to be in our throwy book, check out the link down below. This is like the final chance to go ahead and submit. But with all that said, if you guys want the best how to do graffiti tutorials anywhere online, check out this playlist right up here with more graffiti content right down here. And I'll catch you guys back here next week. Thanks for watching.